You may be seated. I am going to go off script for a minute. And I hope that you will understand why and indulge me. This week, my friend, who you all met just a moment ago, Congressman Gottheimer, had to do something very challenging. He crossed party lines to do what was right. One of his fellow congresspeople, Rashida Tlaib, was censured. She was one of only 25 people in the history of Congress to be censured because she doubled down on a chant that is genocidal in nature and that denies the Jewish people to a state and is hurtful and is wrong. Doing this caused a lot of blowback for Congressman Gottheimer and all of the other Democrats that cross party lines to censure her. But I'm going to say that we didn't elect you, Congressman, to do what was popular or cool. We elected you to do what was right. And you did what was right this week, as hard as it was. And on behalf of all of us, we thank you for your steadfast leadership. We thank you for being driven by a moral compass. We thank you for your love, not only for Israel, but for America, and realizing how they jive together. And we pray that God look after you and your family to continue to do the holy work that you're doing. Thank you. This Shabbat is the first of a series in 3 weeks of 4 speakers from Israel that are coming in this moment of tragedy and need, that are bringing us spirit, love, and support. And we are honored that this week we get to welcome Dr. Nachman Shai to our congregation. Dr. Shai served as Israel Minister of Diaspora Affairs from June 2021 until November of 2022. In that ministerial post in the Israeli cabinet, he was entrusted with fostering the connection between world Jewry and the State of Israel. Minister Shai, before that, was previously an Israeli Institute visiting professor at Duke University and the Political Science Department in Durham, North Carolina, and a visiting professor at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. Nachman Shai is also the former Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, where he served for the past 10 years. Prior to his election to the Knesset, he held diverse positions in the military, media, diplomatic, and public arenas. These include Senior Vice President and Director General of Israel for the United Jewish Communities of North America, known today as JFNA, Director General of the Ministry of Science, Culture, and Sport, Israel Defense Force spokesperson with the rank of Brigadier General, Commander and Editor-in-Chief of Galei Tzahal, which is the IDF and the military radio waves. He was the communications advisor to the Minister of Defense, Yitzhak Rabin, and Moshe Arens. He was Director General of the Second Television and Radio Authority. He was Chairman of the Board of Directors of Channel 2 News Company and Chairman of the Israel Broadcasting Authority. He served as Press Secretary of the Israel Mission to the United Nations in New York, Press Advisor to the Israeli Embassy in Washington, and he worked as a reporter in the print and digital media. In addition to this incredible resume that he has given his entire life for the state of Israel, I can tell you, because I followed him for years, that he is the epitome of a mensch. He is what Israel so desperately needs now in its leadership, someone who governs and is guided by moral principles and by the will of the people. Someone who cares passionately about our past, but is also dogged and determined in shaping our future. He is someone who can talk tough in the boardroom, who can push back on leaders, and comes home and hugs his grandchildren with love and with kindness and care. That's the character that Israel needs right now, and we are incredibly honored and blessed that Dr. Shai is with us this Shabbat. It is my great honor and the great honor of our congregation to welcome Dr. Nachman Shai to our bima. The first thing I need to do, Dr. Shai, is turn on our microphones. You can drink as much water as you like. You even have scotch if you want. This one. Yeah. Life in broadcast, you know about microphones. How about this one? Is this one working? Yes. So before I begin, Dr. Shai, I have a present for you from our congregation. This is a kippah that is made in Israel. And it is a replica of this beautiful dome, which is the centerpiece of our congregation. And we want you to wear it with pride whenever. Keep Evelyn's on for now.
No.
Okay, you can switch. All right, fine.
With all the respect to Evelyn, I'll wear yours.
That's fine. But we want you to have it in good health. We want you to always remember your connection to our synagogue, which is unwavering in our commitment to Zionism, and to know that you are always a Ben Bayit here. You are always welcome.
Thank you.
You should know, congregation, that Dr. Shai was slated to be here on October the 14th. We had spoken on the phone before, and we had a whole list of great questions we were going to ask about the judicial reform, about changes that were happening from the populace in Israel, about which direction things were going, and how we in the diaspora could make a difference. And then the world changed dramatically on October the 7th. We even spoke on the phone. I was telling Dr. Shai that my birthday was October the 7th, 1973.
Remember your birthday.
I will always sadly remember my birthday. It's also Evelyn's birthday, October the 7th, except I was born October the 7th, 1973, which was the beginning of the Yom Kippur War. My mother heard about the war, and she went into labor because of it. She was so bothered, and that, I think, determined my Zionism, and now 50 years later, connected again. So let me change the questions we had prepared for today and ask you the following. What is the temperature in Israel amongst the people? How is the community, the society, those in the street, we call it Main Street in America, how are they dealing with this unprecedented reality?
First, good morning and Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
For hosting me. Mazal Tov, Evelyn, for your bat mitzvah. And thank you, Congressman Josh, for being here. And my friend, good friend, Linda Scherzer.
It's not working?
Yeah, doesn't work? I won't get on that.
A little closer.
Okay.
Kacha. Yeah.
Kacha. Okay. Now you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I repeat on what I've said before? No. Well, I'll go on. Rabbi Kirshner, it's really a pleasure to be here and big honor. Actually, when I woke up this morning at 6:30, like every Israeli, I believe, until the rest of our life, will remember Shabbat, 6:30 in the morning. Believe me, this is a date for generations to come, time and date. But we attacked by the Hamas. 3,000 murders across the border into Israel. There are too many kids here in the room, and I would not go into details. It has never happened in our history after the Holocaust, and some say even some of the incidents can be compared to what the Nazis did in the Second World War, in the Shoah. We reacted. We will talk about that, but you asked me about the spirit. The spirit is unity. The spirit is standing together. The spirit is a full commitment of the entire people of Israel. Those who were divided, those who were for 40 weeks demonstrating all over the countries, carrying Israeli flags, calling for halting the so-called judicial reform. We don't care about that any longer. I hope the government doesn't care about that too. But we are all focused first on how to defend the country, on how to defeat the enemies, and certainly how to bring them back 240 Israelis that are currently kidnapped and held by the Hamas, and we don't know where we are. We don't know where we are. So the spirit is of power, of recovery, and of understanding that if we don't win this war, maybe there'll be no Israel. So we have to stand together, one next to the other, fighting, helping each other in the rear as well as in the front. Israelis volunteer all over the country, cooking food, providing equipment, driving people back and forth, picking up fruits in the north and agricultural products in the south, going all over. The feeling is that we are in a time of crisis that will never, never, never occur again in our history. You know, I was born to a state, to a people that promised themselves that it will never happen again, right? It did. It did. And we can't afford it again.
So let me ask you this question, which is mildly unfair. As someone who is deeply tied into Israel, I think it's safe to...
You're going there tonight?
I'm going tonight, please God. I think it's safe to say that for the last 10 to 12 years, especially the last 3 to 4 years with the Abraham Accords in particular, it seemed like there was a new reality. And now we have set the clocks back to 1947, not even 48, 47, where the reality we thought we had peace with Egypt, we had peace with Jordan, we're making peace with Saudi Arabia, with Bahrain, with Morocco, with the Emirates. You go to the airport and it was really the United Nations of flights there. And now we're back to only one carrier, alone. Now we are back to a place where we really are reminded that we have enemies surrounding us. And I don't think that that is only to be taken in the literal sense, that is also a metaphor. How are Israelis dealing with this rude awakening that scares them, that they're being told if they go to Germany or they go to, I shouldn't say Germany, because Germany, I was just there last week. Germany's not so bad compared to others, but to go to Europe or they go to tuck in their Magen David, to wear a cap instead of a kippah. How are Israelis dealing with this shattered reality?
Well, I can tell you the following. I belong to the Labour Party. The Labour Party, I used to work with Yitzhak Rabin, and as a Knesset member, I was leading some of the caucuses for two nation states, for two people, and spent a lot of years in order to see whether we are able to live with the Palestinians. There is a great disappointment in our camp, and we have to rethink about what we've been doing. I exclude the Israeli Arabs, who behave quietly. Well, my doctor is an Arab, one of them. The pharmacist is an Arab. The driver is an Arab. I mean, Arabs are all over. There's no way that you can distinguish between Israeli Arabs and Israeli Jews.
They're 20% of the population.
They're 20% of the population. But in general, we look around and we see ourselves isolated and alone. This morning, the leader of Iran came to visit Saudi Arabia after 10 years. This is Saudi Arabia that you just described, Rabbi Kishner, that we were so close to normalized relations. Peace was in the air. Now we went backward. I don't know if 1947, 47, you said at the eve of the UN resolution of the partition resolution. But we have to look backward and ask ourselves, have we made mistakes? Well, which mistake we made and how we misread our neighbors. We do have peace still with Egypt and Jordan, which are the peace treaties are extremely important at this stage. But at the same time, even this morning, there were incursions in the northern border. The Israeli troops are very much deep in Gaza. You can talk a little bit about that. There are 360,000 mobilized Israeli troops, reservists, in addition to 150,000 standing army. So altogether, 500,000 Israelis are wearing uniform at this stage. 500,000, okay? Then the Houthis from Yemen, I don't know what they want from us, by the way. I mean, Yemen is 2,000 kilometers down south. They keep launching rockets and missiles and drones into Israel and Syria as well. So if you look at the borders, they are burning. And we respond. We do very well with the United States of America standing with us. I don't believe we would have been able to do, well, we would, but it will be much different, totally different, without the strong and unequivocal support of President Biden and the US administration, and especially mention Biden's name because I don't believe it would be the same with any other existing American leader but Biden. And I don't vote in America, I vote in Israel. So don't try to say anything to you. But without Biden, without him coming to Israel 3 days after the war broke out, without him promising, committing himself, and maybe he's going to pay for that. I watch carefully American politics now. But no one will change his mind. He is the real and the best friend probably ever of the state of Israel.
I wish I could hug you for that. I agree. Right now, Biden can win in a landslide in Israel. He's got 89% approval rating in Israel, which is pretty telling. And it's also telling to remind us that his predecessor had a very strong approval rating and that we need to stop making Israel a partisan issue. It's more dangerous than a nuclear Iran. And I thank people who are in the center fiercely who make that happen. Let me ask you a question about Gaza, because you've worn the yarmulke in the army. You were Yitzhak Rabin's right hand when he was Minister of Defense. What's happening inside Gaza right now? I know we're meters from the Shifa Hospital. What can you tell us about how the fighting is going? From all accounts and numbers, it seems to be going well for the Israelis, but any soldier is too high a price to pay. And what can you tell us about hostages?
Well, we entered Gaza after 2.5 weeks, where the Air Force was leading and striking Gaza in anywhere. So far, 15,000 targets in Gaza were attacked by the Air Force. 15,000, day and night, non-stop. And that's again possible just because the Americans continue to provide Israel with bombs, with ammunition, with Iron Dome, and whatever we need. We can't do it without. I won't repeat on that, but we fully understand why. There were so far over 100 flights of American aircraft coming to Israel, providing cargo aircraft, providing Israel with whatever we need at this stage. There's a limited capability for Israel, even for Israel. So 15,000. We probably killed thousands and thousands of Hamas terrorists, Hamas, thousands of them, day and night. But we are not done yet. We are not done yet because there are still thousands left, and especially there's senior commanders. Actually, we already did very well with most of their commanders, but it's not enough because we are committed to destroy the Hamas infrastructure and manpower. All of them. All of them. Everyone that crossed to Israel on October 7th should die. There's no doubt about it. Because what they did in the kibbutzim and what they did in the party, in the nature party there, is unforgivable and unforgettable. Unforgettable. So everyone should die and pay for that. And we are not done yet. They are hiding beyond the civil population, like you, human beings that would like to live, but they don't want to live. And they don't have anything but human shield. They are hiding under the hospitals, all the hospitals, because they know that we, a Western-oriented country, a liberal country, will not attack hospitals, right? We won't do it. So they are hiding behind. And that's why you will hear more and more in the news that hospitals are being taken over by the Israeli Defense Forces. We call on them to evacuate the hospitals, to go south, to leave the buildings empty, and then we can come and dig in and look for the terrorists where they are. Because they're hiding. We know that for sure. We have still some good information, good intelligence about Gaza. It's not only about hospitals, schools, kindergarten, everywhere. But especially places that they assume, rightly, so far, that we will not attack. Let me tell you very openly, we excluded those places any longer. They are not immune, they're not safe. If we know the terrorists are hiding behind schools or behind hospitals or anywhere, they are legitimate targets. We call on the population to move down south. 1 million of them already left their homes in the north and moved south. There is a humanitarian crisis. Yes, there is. But there is also a humanitarian crisis for 240 families that are looking for dear ones and they don't know where they are, including 9-month-old baby. Okay? 9-month-old baby. And kids all ages.
And there's 150,000 Israelis that are in a humanitarian crisis that can't go home right now either, from the north and from the south.
200,000.
So
200,000 were forced to leave the south and north and live all over the country in other kibbutzim, in hotels and others. They don't know what happened. They will never, not never, but they wouldn't be able to return to their homes for a long time because they are not safe. So they have to live out somewhere.
You know, last week I heard an explosion in America, and it was the sound of the heads of ultra-liberals' brains exploding when Bernie Sanders announced that we can't call for a ceasefire with Hamas. We must continue to go after them.
When we had that, we thought we didn't do well.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders, he said, oh, well.
It reminded me of Tamar Zandberg. For those of you who don't know who Tamar Zandberg is, she's the head of the Meretz Party, which is the ultra-left party in Israel, who spoke at a J Street conference, which is an ultra-left organization. And she said at that conference, we cannot allow Iran to become nuclear. The conference went dead silent. People did not know how to dance with a different rhythm. Here's someone who checks every box but one. What do we do? Same thing with Bernie. And I think that has created a sense of awakening here in America for some who are part of a crowd that do not know how to find that nuance or that stutter step, that small change to say, hey, we're all for peace, we're all for humanity, we're all for loving kindness, but this needs to be eradicated. This is a cancer, it cannot continue to live. As a result of that, we have seen people in America ripping down kidnap signs. We've seen anti-Semitism skyrocket 300% in the last 5 weeks. We've seen fights about calling for ceasefires and peace, which is a cessation to a victory for Hamas. How do my Israeli brothers and sisters react to this happening in the world?
Israelis are much less aware of what's going on here than you know or watching or following Israel. That used to be for years. And one of my roles as a government minister for Diaspora Affairs was to build some awareness in Israel for the diaspora. Israelis are so much focused on their own business, said, okay, so Jews are living somewhere, okay, that's fine, but what do we have together and what do we have in common and so on, many of them. Remember that 78% of the Israelis were born in Israel, in an independent state. So they don't have relatives abroad except Israelis, and they say, okay, so there are Jews around. I think it will change. One of the things, a lot will be changed, have no doubts. Israel after 7 October is a different state.
No question.
It's a different state from all aspects, Whatever, we have to sit down and ask ourselves what went wrong and what went wrong. I was a kid in the Yom Kippur War. I was 27 years old. I was not even married at the time. Now I'm married with 3 kids, 7 grandchildren, so I have a certain perspective of life. And I cannot even compare the Yom Kippur to what we have gone so far. And after the Yom Kippur, we revolutionized the country. Of course, they sent the government home, and the prime minister as well. Keep in mind, it will come. It will happen again. But it's not all about prime minister. It's much deeper. It's much deeper. How we were blind, what did we not see, and how can we change and make our life safer and better? So this is another aspect that I hope finally the Jews in Israel, the Israelis will understand that we are not alone because you stand with us. Because there are 8 million Jews around the globe that stand with us. And let me tell you something else. We stand with you. We stand with you too. We better understand what it means to live in the diaspora. When we are not safe there, you are not safe here. And you know very well what I mean. I don't have to tell you. Sometimes I ask myself, what does it mean to live in diaspora? Because I don't have this experience. My parents had. I was born in Israel. But now I understand, and all of us understand. So hopefully there'll be no arguments about the Kotel and about other issues. That's really nonsense in comparison with what we have gone through. And we should understand there are just 15 million Jews all around the globe. And there are 1.5 billion Muslims, for example. I don't suggest that we are going to fight with all the 1.5 billion. But when they want to hold a demonstration, as they do today in London, they easily call in almost 1 million people in London this morning. I hope to see you all in Washington later this week. I hope so.
You should be proud to know that we have about 250 representatives of our synagogue going to Washington. So look, I have 2 questions left for you. I'm sorry we're going to run a little late, but it's worth it. You were Minister of Diaspora Affairs, and you were the first Minister of Diaspora Affairs who actually came over and said there is a chasm, there is a break in what's happening between diaspora Jewry and Israeli Jewry. October 7th was a snapback of a relationship that showed the DNA lines. And exactly what you said, that attack was not on only Israel, it was on Jews. And it could have and would have happened to us, and it still might. We know that. What can we in the diaspora do to show our love, to strengthen the spirit, and to remind those 8 million Jews in Israel that we stand with them unwaveringly?
Well, you do a lot. You do a lot. And we appreciate that very much. And it's not only about money. It is a lot about money, but not all. No, I'm serious. It's not all. We are a strong country. We're still very strong, flourishing, high-tech, Nobel Prize. Oh, what else? I mean, miracles happened in Israel in the course of the years. But mainly because of, not only because of us, but because of you, because you continuing support to Israel. So it's about helping Israel financially in this case. But by the way, the US administration, the US government is going to offer $14 billion to Israel. I mean, don't underestimate that. If it passes the Congress, I mean, there are difficulties there. I'm not familiar with all of them, but I'm sure that it will go through. I hope so. It's bipartisan. It's not only about the Democrats, it's about the Republicans as well. And I heard President Trump saying also very good and important things about Israel yesterday. So it's not only about the Democrats. Make sure we finally also, we will not repeat on the same mistake of being one partisan. We have to be bipartisan. Israel, for the entire history, relied on American people, Democrats and Republicans as alike. Never sided with this party and another party. And I really don't want to look backward and ask myself how did it happen, but now I think the situation has changed. But back to your questions. It's about helping Israel. It's about convincing friends and neighbors and colleagues and anyone in your environment, wherever you are. Don't take it for granted that they support Israel. Don't take it for granted. You know very well what's going on in American college campuses right now, right? Well, they will recover the universities because maybe they I don't know if they will understand. I don't know. I saw Columbia made a certain decision now. Harvard just heard from 1,600 graduates that they are going to reconsider the relationship, and some of the major donors of Harvard decided to withdraw their support to Harvard. They said, if this is the policy of Harvard University, maybe we don't have to help you by scores of millions of dollars a year. Maybe not. Maybe we'll find another college. There are enough. There are 4,000 colleges and universities in this country, so maybe others will get the money, not necessarily Harvard. Harvard have to look. Hundreds of Israelis went to the Wexner program at Harvard, hundreds of them. The chief of staff, the head of the Shabbat, all the senior staff of the Israeli public service spent 1 year on MBA program at Harvard. All of them.
Right, at the Kennedy School.
At the Kennedy School of Government. Why? Very prestigious. Now they ask themselves, is it the university that they attended? They were so proud to take the credit of Harvard. So as I said, funds. Social media networks are extremely important. I don't know how much of you are using them, but the young generation rely on them. That's where they get all their information. So Israelis, young and not that young, are sending a lot of messages, a lot of content on social media. And there are billions of messages running back and forth. We should make sure that those billions of messages will be pro-Israel and not against Israel. You can do it. Each one of you is a fighter for Israel if you just pick up your iPhone or iPad, or I don't work for Apple, or whatever, and use it in order to send messages about Israel. You can do it. It's very easily. Push the button. More and more and more and more. And we'll provide you with that ammunition. It's a war. It's like NBC, CBS, NBC, because young people, why do we do so poorly with the young generation and much better with the middle-aged and older generations? Because they don't rely on social media. But college kids are always watching their iPhone in order to get the information. And if they get messages against Israel, they tend to believe that Israel is the bad side of it. And in those messages, there is no massacre on October 7. There was no attack. Bear in mind, we did not declare war against Hamas on October 7th. It was just the opposite. Just the opposite. We were looking for certain agreements with the Hamas, and it was all broken on October 7th. I want the people to understand how it started. Because now they watch the television reports about Gaza and they move their heads and say, oh, poor Gazans, poor people, what's going on with them? We are very sorry about that. And I'm telling you honestly, no Air Force pilot, no tank commander would like to kill any civilian. None of them. And we try to do our best to avoid civilian casualties. The best is not 100%. The best is not. While thousands and thousands of rockets were fired from Gaza into Israel, and they don't distinguish between military facilities and civilians. It landed all over the country. All over the country. Rabbi, you're going to Israel. You probably run back and forth into a safe room wherever you are.
My wife thanks you for that. Thank you.
Okay, well, what can I do? You'll be back.
Please, God.
God goes with you. You know, He's traveling with you on the same flight. And seriously, they don't try. They try to kill civilians. They try to hit civilian targets. And we do just the opposite. But at the same time, with our moral, with our human values, we will win the war. I assure you, we will win the war. And we are not going to lose our Jewish identity and our Israeli identity and our human identity. We are not going to lose it. We'll remain what we were before the war, and we will win the war.
I want to just dovetail on this. My last question was actually about the college campuses. You were a professor at Emory and at Duke, and I think that's important to chime in on. I told you the story on the phone this week, and it has shaken me to its core. The chief of staff for Ron Huldai, Ron is the longtime serving mayor of Tel Aviv, is a guy by the name Eitan Schwartz. He was trained at Columbia University. He's got his BA and MA there. And he's been tasked with taking different reporters from all different streams to the kibbutzim that were hardest hit, like Kfar Aza and Kibbutz Be'eri, and which have been left exactly as they're found with the exception of the bodies that have been removed. He was taking a gaggle of reporters, AP, Reuters, CNN, NBC, all of the different groups.
The good guy.
And one of the reporters said to Eitan, how do we know there are bodies in that bag? What I am up at night over is the revisionist approach that took 20 years to rise to the surface after the Holocaust and has taken 20 minutes to rise to the surface after this. It is a blood libel. It is a continuation of a horrible trope against Jews. And it must be defeated with sunlight. It must be defeated with facts. It must be defeated with honesty. And I could not echo your words louder that we are all conscribed to this army and fighting this where and when we see it. That there should be zero tolerance for those who tear down those signs and call it propaganda, for those who say it didn't happen, for those who say that this was something that can't be looked at in a vacuum, or for those who deny these atrocities. We all have a responsibility. And I thank you, Dr. Shai, for deputizing us with that role, for charging us with that role, And we salute you for your leadership, and we salute you for all that you do for our homeland of Israel. And when you do go home to Israel, I want you to share with them that this community, this congregation, along with all of the state and the United States, stands unwaveringly with our brothers and sisters, our aunts and uncles and cousins. We hold them, we hug them, and we will be with them soon. We are indebted to you for your leadership and for being with us this Shabbat. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, but the credit should go to the soldiers, to the officers in Israel. By the way, not all of them are Jewish. We lost also Jewish soldiers, senior officers from the Jewish community. But actually, soldiers are fighting heroically, sacrificing their life. And if you talk to them and hear them, I've been a military correspondent. I know the military very well. I've never heard them speaking in such a determination, knowing that some of them will not come back. And you know, in our days, they send messages home, not only write letters, but send messages on those gadgets. And they tell their families, we know we may not come back, but remember, we lived the life we wanted to. And if we die, it's for you and for the rest of the Israelis. That I've never seen before, I'm telling you. Thank you again very, very much.
Thank you again, Dr. Shai.